with the kickoff role, and what are you looking to tweak on
I
that
think in general, we're obviously just starting our year out here, our new year out. But, I think in general, I think there's a big push probably to move the ball to the 35 on a touchback, which will obviously increase the number of plays. The injury data was really outstanding. I think we got it back down to where it's like a scrimmage play, which was the goal in terms of the injury rate. So all that's a plus.
And then with the onside kick, are you looking at different ways to?
Yeah, we'd like to get that better. I mean, the percentage up, you don't want it to go up too much. I mean, the teams who win the game and, put themselves in that position, to have the game in hand, you don't want that to go up too high. But it has dropped to a percentage that, you'd like to have some shot at.
Any conversations around hip drop tackles and how you feel like that penalty has progressed since last year?
I just think it's really been effective, having that in place, having it to where it can be fined. I think the players understand it, that it can, just like Tony Pollard with us was injured. These guys realize that type of technique can hurt a player, and 99.9% of the players in this league don't want that. They understand it's their livelihood, and I think us putting it in place has been effective, and we've reduced the number of hip drop tackles and the number of injuries.
Cowboy related, what's the first month of the Brian Schottenheimer era been like for you?
It's been outstanding. I mean, Brian's done a great job. I think he did a great job with the staff. He's very diligent, and how we went about it. He led that process, and Jerry and I were able to sit in, especially the coordinator interviews. But I think he was very detailed, very extensive. I don't think he had preconceived ideas. He let the best guys, get the jobs. And other than the guys we kept internally and that we held on to, it was wide open when he started the process and would pick the best guy.
And your staff is here the whole week. Is that as much learning new schemes or getting a bond between all sides of the ball?
Well, I think all the above. I mean, they're going to be working together and then also looking at players. I mean, this is important, for us to get to know them even better, the new guys, Will and his staff, and Jerry and myself, working with Coach Schottenheimer and his staff, I think is really important.
You guys have emphasized a mix of continuity and change on the staff when Brian runs this combine now for the first time as a head coach in terms of evaluating and looking for what you guys want. What do you make of that process so far, and how do you feel like everybody is in terms of being on the same page?
Well, I think it's really good. At the end of the day, one of the things we love about Coach Schottenheimer, and of course Mike McCarthy was too, he's a great communicator. And, the most important thing, from a personnel standpoint for Jerry and I and Will is to understand what type of players, they're looking for that can make them successful in their particular system. So, that's the utmost importance, and big reason why all of them are here is we want to understand, what type of players, fit best theoretically in their scheme, and what we're looking for when we get ready to draft this spring. So, that's the most important thing. But at the end of the day, as long as we can have that communication and understand what we're looking for, I think we can continue to have successful drafts, and I have no doubt that'll happen.
Do you want to get Micah done sooner rather than later? You got CD done in August, you got Dak done right before the season started. Is there an effort to get that done earlier than you've gotten these other ones done?
Yeah, I mean, there's always extenuating circumstances, to these things. And, every contract negotiation's different. I mean, CD, there were still other receivers that were trying to get their deal done, and some of them still hadn't gotten those deals done, as we all know. Dak's deal was, we were working on that, and Dak was in and didn't really affect anything in terms of, what we were doing. He was practicing every day and working hard, and as you know, he's not distracted by things like that. So, the CD deal was just different, and we'll just see how Micah's deal goes. I don't necessarily know that there's a lot of, extenuating situations out there that would precede us from being able to get our hands around something with Micah, but we'll see.
When he says he'd like to see you guys be aggressive, does that Do you and Jerry hear that, like in how you attack free agency and looking to add players?
No, I mean, we're going to be selectively aggressive out here. I mean, we want to, obviously our goals historically have been, to try to fill as many of your must and needs before the draft so you can pick best player on your board. Didn't get that totally accomplished last year, but certainly that's always the goal, and every year is different in terms of what those must and needs are. And then you also, have to marry up what's in free agency versus where the draft is heavy, where we can help ourselves in the draft.
You guys have always said that keeping your own is the most important part of free agency. With a guy like Osa, where do things stand with him and your willingness to want to keep him?
Yeah, we're certainly working with him right now, working with his agent, and have had productive talks, and we'll see where we end up this week.
Is franchise tag a possibility?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details. Obviously, franchise and transition tags, those are all tools that are used. But, getting into that right now, we're focusing right now on Osan, trying to get a deal done.
Without revealing, obviously, your entire evaluation strategy, when you come to the combine and events like these and you get in front of these players, is there something that, whether it be with you or your staff, kind of just players say or do something that impresses you and maybe they move up and down your board because of it?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get to know a player, they can, they can be influential in a good way, and they can also do some things, I don't know about that after all. But, that's part of getting to know guys and part of the overall process, evaluation process. It's something we embrace, and that's why we think it's really important, not only for our scouts to be involved in these interviews, but our coaches as well.
With the backup quarterback spot, you said to David that when you're paying Dak the kind of money you're paying him, it's hard to pay the backup a lot of money. Does his injury history here lately impact that at all to make you think maybe you do need more of a Cooper to remain or a solid veteran?
Yeah, I mean, we'll evaluate the whole situation. I mean, you're always wanting to have a young guy coming. That's always a preference, and certainly that's something we'll look at in the draft is, to see if there's a young guy to start bringing along again. Obviously, we were focused on Trey there when we traded for him, and he was our young guy, if you will, that we were bringing along. But all of those are things that we'll, start to evaluate with this draft with Coach Schottenheimer, with Coach Shimko and Clayton in that group. What's available out there, what's going to be in the draft, and make the best, decision in terms of what we're going to have behind Dak.
You mentioned Will a little bit ago. How important is he to what you guys do and to keep him the way you get your grades?
I mean, I'd like to think one of the better things we've done around here is, player acquisition. I think we've had good rosters. I think we've drafted well. I think, Jerry and I's relationship with Will when it comes to that has been fantastic. I think our relationship and how we've designed our evaluation system, communication with the coaches has been outstanding, and I don't expect any of that to change. Obviously, Will's a huge part of that.
When you see what the Eagles in your division winning a Super Bowl for the second time in 8 years, being in the Super Bowl 3 times in 8 years, how much does that drive and influence you guys at all and to want to get past 7 and 10?
Yeah, you just have to, obviously much respect for them for getting that done. Obviously we get criticized, and rightfully so, for lack of success in the postseason, and then of course certainly weren't pleased with our season this year. We had some challenges, from an injury standpoint, but as Jerry likes to say, the world's smallest violin there. I mean, that's part of our game. People have injuries. I was just talking with John. He had the same situation in San Francisco. So, that's just part of it. But certainly, we're always looking for ways to be better. And what we've done recently with our lack of playoff success, and certainly this year, we certainly understand that and know that we have to, continue to look for ways to be better than that. Is that good?
Zach Martin reportedly retiring. You obviously can't, find another Zach Martin out there just like that.
No, you don't. Find Hall of Famers on the corner. Right. But he's a special man. Yeah, and not just, you know, at the end of the day, it's not a total surprise. I mean, we communicate with our guys, and so that wasn't something that we looked up and said, boy, that's a shocker. I mean, we kind of saw it coming, but, you know, Zach's had an amazing career, and you just don't replace, you know, he's certainly a great player on the field, but, you know, his leadership and the man he was off the field was a huge part of what he was, you know, in that offensive line room and, you know, for our team in terms of being a special individual.
The other part of that draft class is DeMarcus, and he's facing maybe similar situations. What have even discussions been like with him?
Yeah, we'll have more discussions this week. I mean, I don't want to get out in front or assume anything one way or the other with D-Law. I'm sure, you know, he can speak to that. That's the way we like to leave it. Just as Zach spoke for himself on, you know, when he was going to retire, we'll have the same respect for DeMarcus Lawrence and have, you know, I'm not aware of anything right now other than that he's playing.
Yeah. Stephen, didn't want to interrupt the Cowboys talk.
No, go ahead.
The competition committee, I was kind of working on a story. I don't know, maybe it's boring or not. I don't know. But I think when you have all these rules proposed, whether it's by you guys, your concepts, or teams proposed, I'm wondering what's the hardest part of it, going from that conceptualization to getting other teams on board and getting a rule passed, whether it's a rule or, you know, financial stuff that gets dealt with by the owners?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you have our staff, which is just outstanding, you know, at the league level, you know, that are monitoring and keeping all the members of the competition committee abreast on things that should be looked at. And so you have that process, and then that's the most valuable thing about being in a league with 31 others, the clubs. They certainly see things, and they bring things to our attention that are usually well thought out, but sometimes there's, you know, the old term unintended consequences, you know, that we have to look at as a committee. So most of the time those teams understand it. You know, if for some reason, you know, something they present, or a lot of times things they present don't actually go in, you know, to a rule or a bylaw or whatever that may be, but we certainly welcome and we pay a lot of attention to any suggestions that come from the teams.
What building consensus is a hard thing.
Yes.
32 teams. How do you bridge those gaps?
I think it's just sitting in a room and talking through it. I mean, it starts, you know, with the hours that the competition committee puts in on it. And if, you know, normally if we can't build a consensus in there, then you know it's going to be even more difficult to do it on the floor. But, you know, I give the league, you know, credit. I think most teams respect, you know, the time and the effort that the staff puts in and the competition committee puts in to looking at these things. And, you know, if we can't come out of a room with a near unanimous support, or the other way around, near unanimous not supportive, then I think that affects the teams and, you know, affects the way they look at voting on something and understand it.
The last thing on this topic, what would you say in your time has been the issue or rule that maybe was the most contentious and, you know, that actually got facilitated, maybe got passed?
Well,
is there one that comes to mind?
You know, that's interesting. You need to give me a heads up so I can think about that for a while. You know, I can't necessarily just come up with one right off the top of my head, but
okay, 2 or 3. Then. Make it harder for you.
You could come back, but I mean, any of these rules, you know, the biggest thing is we're trying to protect players, and you know, the player health and safety's at the forefront. And you know, it's interesting. Sometimes even the players don't like the rules you put into place, like the hip drop tackle. There was a lot of pushback on that at first, so it was controversial. And you know, how do you expect me to tackle a guy? I'm fighting for my life, and now you're limiting how I get a hold of a guy. And you know, so all those things are interesting, but you know, they're just challenges, and you meet them head on, and you go through it all. I mean, you know, the commissioner's always got great challenges, you know, things he sees that he wants addressed. Right. And certainly are things that we look at or try to convince him that, hey, maybe that's not so good. And, you know, he's a great listener, and he sits in all these meetings, and he's an outstanding resource, obviously. Hey, what are you late for?
I'm sorry, I was taking a nap. Taking an afternoon nap.
David, you can't come. You've already done this.
You've been in the Dallas market a long time. When you see what's happening to the Mavericks and their fan base, What's your reaction to stuff like that?
We have to worry about the Cowboys. I mean, I have nothing but respect for the Mavericks and what Mark's done, and now the Adelsons, nothing but respect. And it'd be unfair for me to make any comment about someone else's business and, what they're doing. We've got our hands full with our own, and certainly we've got a lot of wood to chop and work to do here. And but nothing but respect for that franchise and what they've accomplished.
You see the fans get your fans get a little upset too.
Really?
But to see the fans respond the way they did, going outside the arena with caskets and
Yeah. Like I said, I don't really want to comment on the Mavericks. I understand. I want ours to be emotional, and I want them to care. I mean, certainly, the record we had last year, and our postseason lack of success, if you will. I understand that completely. I want them to be emotional about that, and we have to be better. And we're always looking for ways to improve our team, and how to take the next step. I mean, certainly, we've been through a lot this offseason already with Coach Sottenheimer and him hiring the staff, and now our preparation for the personnel side of things as we come up here to the Combine. Obviously, it's a place where everybody meets with all the representatives of the potential free agents. So a lot of work going on right now, but something we embrace, and we just want to bring that success in the postseason and ultimately a championship to our fan base. They deserve it, and certainly deserve to be critical and emotional about it.
What do you say to them? What do you say to the fans, though, that specifically this offseason want to see you guys be more aggressive?
That we're going to look at everything we can. We're going to be selectively aggressive. We obviously, there's things in this league you have to, you have certain amount of resources they allow you to have, and we'll look at that. But we're going to try to improve our football team. Not try. We're going to improve our football team, and we expect to have success next year.
What's the impact of the cap going up 277 to 281?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously gives every team more room, and in a lot of cases, which it should, it can drive the market up on individual players in terms of what they would have gotten versus, when it goes up a little more than maybe the teams had expected. But certainly, from our viewpoint, it gives us some more flexibility in terms of what we can do.
It allows you to be more selectively aggressive. I don't know I think that was the term used.
Yeah.
Does it give you more options, I guess?
Yeah, certainly. And, looking at our own guys as well as, free agents, potential free agents. Obviously, one year we thought we had really improved our football team through a couple of trades. And so there's a lot of ways to, do your player acquisition, and, we'll continue to look at all avenues.
With Osa in particular, I mean, is the defensive tackle position one that, because it's been tough in the draft, that you have to prioritize that even more in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Osa's a really good football player. He's a homegrown guy who we think's a really good football player, and that's why we're trying to work on getting him signed.
Lawrence, you were here a long time. Is it difficult to manage what he might do with you guys at all?
No, I mean, we think the world of D-Law. I mean, that guy's laid it on the line for us for years and years and years, and nothing but respect for him. And, it's no different. Every situation's a little different, but he's been right there along with the Tyron Smiths and the Zach Martins, and, think so much of those guys and what they've done over their careers and the successful career they've had. And we'll obviously be sitting down with D-Law and his representatives and see what he's thinking.
As an ownership group, is apathy the worst case scenario? And you guys haven't had to deal with that even through not having the playoff success. But
I guess you weren't standing here. That's what I said. I want them to have emotion. I mean, apathy is what you don't want. And certainly we understand the emotion involved, and we want our fans to love our team, and we also want them to have emotion when we don't deliver great results, which 7-10 is not acceptable from our viewpoint, and the lack of success in the postseason is certainly something that's frustrating for us as well, that we want to do something about.
You haven't had a chance to work with Brian yet in this setting at the Combine.
as a head coach. I've gotten to work with Brian up there looking at players, but not as a head coach.
I was just wondering, what have you been able to tell? Will he be in more interviews than some head coaches have done, or are there any differences?
Yeah, it's just tough to tell you that because we hadn't started it, the process. I mean, the biggest process I've been involved with Brian is, him hiring his staff, and that's been outstanding. I mean, he's done a hell of a job and been impressive, and really think he's off to a great start. I love the staff that he's put together, and now we'll get with those guys and see if we can get some better football players for this team. One or two more, Gus, huh?
You do a lot of interviews here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
you get a lot of them.
kind of do the chart on who you want to talk to?
Yeah, we'll just pick guys that we want to visit with, and they tape them all, so we get to see them as well. So there's a lot of times we don't get to a lot of them, Jerry and I don't, but we ultimately get to see them, through the draft process.
As you look back to last year, is there the regret of the approach you guys took in free agency of letting the guys go and not being able to, when you know now the results of what happened during the course of the season?
Trying to think the best way to say this, but I'm not making at the end of the day no excuses. But when you have the injuries we had, it's difficult, and so you just that makes it hard. And we're going to obviously look at everything we do in terms of how we go about making this team better, how we improve the roster, and you always look for ways to improve, and that's what we're going to do. All good?
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.